All right, so we are back. Epiphan is joining us today. George Burchell from Epiphan is joining us today to talk about the new rescheduling feature that has come to the Epiphan Pearl systems. And so, why don't we start it off by introducing you, George? Why don't you say hello to everybody and explain who you are?
Awesome. Thanks so much, James. Yeah, we're really excited. It's been a nice couple of weeks at Team Epiphan, and partly because of the specials that you're running here at Broadfield, but also we have a lot of updates to our Pearl product line that customers have been asking us about for a long time now. So um, we live by this slogan, broadcast without barriers. And the reason we talk about this is because we try to take things that are normally complicated and it comes to video production or just managing video on any site and make them a lot simpler. And you've seen our Pearl family as James put up in the intro slide there. And these devices allow you to we came in before this call and we were setting everything up, right? And we're on the call with your producer and we're going through this checklist of all the things that we have to do to get ready for today's event, right? And
Yep.
there's a million things and it's always complicated. And like, I know one thing went wrong. But fortunately it was only one, right? And it's always like, how do we mitigate any of the challenges that come up when you're doing video, whether it's a webinar like we're doing here today, or whether you just have a space set up for video. And so our Pearl product line, it tries to mitigate all of those as much as possible. So they're very easy to use. And with this new update, we allow you to schedule them. So I'll go into a lot of detail about what that means for customers, like why scheduling is important and how it means you can have a completely automated space. So we've been saying make every space a studio for the last couple of years. And what we mean by that is you can take a co-working space, you can take a house of worship, maybe it's a meeting space in your company, and you can convert those existing spaces where you're already set them up for Zoom rooms or you've already set them up for an in-person audience, and you can make them into a studio. And the last couple of years has been able to make them into a hybrid studio. So these are our strengths, is taking these regular spaces and outfitting them for people to create video without the complexity. So we talk about not having to babysit. And our equipment is used in really mission critical places. You'll find it on the ISS. It's in space doing stuff. It's in submarines doing underwater work and recording video in those applications. And of course, those are very high touch applications, but most of our customers are using them in spaces where maybe they're volunteers in that space. Maybe there's a library around the corner from you, James, where they have a Pearl set up so that people from the community can come in and record video content there.
Yeah.
And we have, government councils chambers where, they're not people who are doing AV all day who are operating this equipment. So we really try to embody that, built for volunteers, built for anybody to be able to operate it. And the newest update, as I mentioned, is around scheduling. So maybe I could just ask you, like, what would you be able to do with scheduling? Like, what could we have done for today's event? I'm thinking of also your producer, Adam, behind the scenes here. Like, how could that have helped out in what you guys do?
Well, as our viewers know, we do a weekly show every Tuesday at 3 o'clock here at Videoguys. And a lot of the times we're making our event the day of, the day before. And I could see that just having one less thing to worry about with making the event the day of or the day before and being able to just know, all right, our events are made and they're scheduled and ready to go out automatically. I see that being as a huge benefit to us, and it's just the peace of mind aspect of that.
Yeah, peace of mind. Those are the three words that we've been using internally too to talk about it, and we've lived it as well. We've been on the other end where we're trying to get these things, pull these things off in a very short timeline, and there's a million things to do. So being able to schedule the recording, so you know that on a Pearl system, not only do you do a production like you'd see here, where you have nice layouts and you're maybe live streaming that to somewhere. In most cases, people are recording those individual feeds as well. So for today, you record a nice full screen ISO of
Yep.
you and you record an ISO of me, just in case you have it covered, right? You want to have those ISOs covered. So we'll often use scheduling now just to make sure that we record those. So it's like, if anything goes haywire here, if, internet has a challenge for the live event, at least you have those captured ISOs. So that's a big part of why we put together scheduling. And I can talk a little bit about how some of our customers have been telling us how they might use scheduling when it comes to live streaming and recording. So, um,
Before you go on to that, I do want to add just with ISOs, it's great for having it as a backup, but also a lot of people, us included, we use our ISOs to then in post-production make micro content out of our, full form, and I'm sure lots of viewers are doing that too. So just ISOs in general are good for any kind of post-production or, micro content management that you want to do after the fact.
oh, I hear you. Especially because often when you do these live events like today, there'll be stuff that's going to make this age poorly because it might have a date on it. It might say coming next Thursday, or it might say the special like you advertised at the beginning here,
Exactly.
Those are
Yep.
very temporal things and they don't work for any of that post workflow. So we'll do the same thing. We'll record our ISOs and use that to make things have that evergreen appeal to them. So if you say something smart, we can capture it and we have it forever, right?
Exactly. Or just pulling
Uh,
that one line out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So it's a nice use case, and just to get people thinking, always record those ISOs because there's ways to use it, especially with all the AI tools that we have right now. This is a tangent away from what we're talking about, but recording everything and knowing that you can plug your content into an AI system that can automatically find those clips and transcribe them. The whole post editing workflow has meant a huge opportunity for people to just capture everything, just record everything because the tools are a lot easier to use in the post side. So, but back
Absolutely.
to our scheduling and our Pearl systems here, we have a lot of customers who use them in an environment similar to what you and I are doing today. Maybe this is a little higher production value, and that you've got, a producer behind the scenes working this. But a lot of our corporate customers, they're trying to do a podcast studio, and the best kind of podcasting studio, I think everyone would agree, is one that is easy to use for both the producers, so they don't have to sit there and, babysit that customer who's coming in or coworker who needs to make that content, and also the person coming into that space. So if I'm going into a podcast space, I don't want to have to worry about are the cameras working or, is it going to record properly? And I don't really want to have to be thinking about the technology. As you've got all this content to worry about. You're the talent, right? You're the
Oh yeah.
podcaster, right?
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. The less that your talent needs to worry about, the better. And if I don't have to
Exactly.
worry about it as the producer, then they surely don't have to worry about it. So it makes it
Yes.
a better scenario for everybody involved. And
Yeah.
I think
So
we're actually playing a little video here of a case study that you guys kind of showed off with your own show last week. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this podcast studio that is using the Epiphan systems in order to automate pretty much every aspect of their production?
yeah, this is a really inspiring story that we look to. It's so nice when you can learn from your customers, and in this case, we learned from G-Man Productions. This is the person who owns his name Jeremy, and he set up podcast studios as a kind of a pay for, you come in and pay for an hour, and you get to make your podcast and go home. And he was very smart in trying to be as efficient as possible. And part of the reason is because he lives in another country. He lives in Jordan. He
Wow.
lives in Amman, Jordan. So he's far, far away, and he can't really be there to manage that equipment. So he set it up so that he could more or less people could come in, and on the front screen of Pearl, they could come in and push start. And he knew if they just would come
Okay.
into the studio and push start there, like it shows in the video, they could record and get all of that footage, and it would automatically transfer to the cloud where he could produce it really quickly for them. And now he has this ability to schedule it. So he can have a complete end-to-end workflow where his entire production is automated. So they don't even need to push start on the front screen anymore. They just come in at 2 o'clock and know it's capturing video. And they'll see that, like on the device itself, it'll tell you, oh, recording now, and you'll get a sense, oh, it's starting in 5 minutes. So there's a bit of insight if you're the talent and you want to know that it's working as it's supposed to. You've been told it's been scheduled, but you kind of need to know it, see it. And
You
so
want that
we make sure
confirmation.
you want that confirmation, you want that confidence monitor. So we put it right on the front of our devices, and you can pull that and put that anywhere you want in the space as well. So that's the kind of corporate podcasting side of things. But there's a ton of other people who have been interested in this kind of scheduling feature. So
Oh, yeah. One thing that we have been kind of pushing here at Video Guys is just corporate in general taking, with the pandemic happening and a lot of people working from home now, there are a lot of office spaces that have, one or two rooms available. It doesn't need to be a huge studio, but you can put something like a Pearl into a small, what used to be an office, and now you have a Pearl
Well,
in
it can
there, and you're
still be that
turning
office. It's those meeting spaces are perfect
meeting
studio
spaces in
spaces.
general too.
They've
But
got cameras, they've got the displays, they've got every part except for the
yep,
part to record and stream that video. And you add a
yep.
Pearl to that mix, and that's boom, there's your studio.
Exactly. And now you can
Yeah.
incorporate, your calls, your investor calls, whatever you want to bring in, the CEO a little bit nicer, make them look a little bit fancier in that call, or have that call produced a little bit more. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. We've seen a ton of growth in that space actually in the last year or so. But the scheduling part of it, we've pulled a lot of what we know about scheduling from the education sector,
Hmm.
where it's been entrenched in their culture for years because of course they have such a rigorous, literal schedule of content coming in and out with classes all day. Their scale when it comes to education and video production is probably more than any other industry, and that they're creating so much video in so many places. So they quickly learned that scheduling is essential to make that work. And while some of the larger universities have scheduling tools built into their content management systems that trigger a Pearl to start recording and streaming, or trigger whatever equipment they have to operate, sometimes you just need a lightweight scheduling tool, which is what we built here, so that you could have, maybe you have 5 classrooms and a schedule on them, and you just need to make sure that the files get recorded and then sent to a central repository where you can go and access that footage. So that's why, a lot of the smaller schools have been asking us for years to include some kind of native scheduling right into our devices, because it lets them basically have a very lightweight content management system that they can set up.
And I,
Uh,
I think that's great. We do every year we do something called EduStream, and we talk about some of those lecture management platforms. And I see this fitting in there even more so than it has in previous years. We always talk about the Pearls in schools, but this is just another application that the Pearl kind of just excels at.
yeah, makes it more of a complete application. Like everything, every year we add more capabilities to these products.
Yep.
They do not sit idle for very long when it comes to their firmware and their capabilities. And so getting scheduling, that's like another tool in the quiver of what some people call it the Swiss Army knife capabilities here.
I like that.
Uh, Trademarked, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Uh, and on the government and legal side is very similar as well, in that you have a lot of council chambers, you have a lot of video that is mandated to be recorded. So this is a great place for us to play in because, well, they have to record all the video and they need systems that operate independent of a lot of people to operate them. So they may be run by the city councilor themselves, who will come in and start the meeting, and they will come in and push start or stop on our devices to get it rolling. And if they have scheduling, they don't have to touch it at all. So again, they can just capture all that footage and have it pushed to wherever it needs to go. And same thing with live streaming. If they're live streaming their council, meetings every third Thursday of the month, they can automate that entirely. So
Yeah, and when I
um,
think of government, I don't necessarily think of people that know the technology, and it's just another application where you can throw something that does a lot of work, but makes it super easy to implicate. I think government is a perfect place for a Pearl.
yeah, you can kind of set it and forget it. It's like all technology, at some point or another, you might change it up and need some expert help to come in and make that work. But if we go into a government, we can set them up and say, here's what you need to work with, and know that it's easy enough for them to use. And,
Right.
unless they completely rip out the infrastructure in the room, it's just going to keep working and working. So
Exactly.
conferences is another big space for scheduling, where especially on the breakout room sessions. So you might have some main keynote where they have a full switcher and a team of 6 people making that keynote look amazing, right? And then there's probably 20 other rooms where content is happening, and if it's a good conference, they want to record that content because they know there's value in that content. And if they put a Pearl in that room and they schedule it, they don't have to have a single person in those rooms capturing it. So they can have 20 rooms operating, recording content all day, and all of that managed by a single person who just loaded up the schedule onto the devices. Because if you load the schedule onto the device and then take it off the network, and put it in that space, it'll still respect that schedule. So while we know in a lot of conferences, internet is hard to come by for some of these smaller spaces,
Oh yeah.
this still like lets them do their job and record that content.
I did not know that that was a feature to be able to do it even when it's not connected to the internet, as long as it is implemented before you take it away from the internet. So that's, again, I think you said the Swiss Army knife. Again, I think that sums it up
Yeah,
really
yeah.
well.
Yeah, well, people have been asking us for this, so we've been listening, and it's nice to see it come. It's nice for me to see it, like when you talk to customers and they ask you for this, it's nice to be able to deliver on it. And then last but not least is house of worship. So this is maybe the most obvious place where you have regularly occurring content, be it on a Sunday or any other day. It's quite a regular cadence of activities happening in a church or any kind of house of worship. And to be able to just schedule that and know that it's going to happen, whether it's going to live stream to Facebook where you've got a remote congregation, or you just need to record it, it's very, very easy to set that up using any Pearl system. So we're pretty sure we're going to get a lot of our house of worship customers using this feature right away
Oh,
to make their
absolutely.
lives easy. Yeah.
And we have another case study that you talked about in your show announcing the rescheduling. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this case study that we're playing here?
Sure. So what this is really a montage of different customers that one of our champions, John Porterfield, who is a live streaming expert, is the simplest way to put it. He's an AV person, and he meets with other churches and helps get them set up for success so that they can do their own live streaming. And so he's always looking for efficiencies, ways that he can set them up so that he doesn't have to, spend too much time on the floor in those spaces, making them, helping them be successful. So he leverages our pearls in nearly any installation he can, just because he knows he can put them in place and they can work without him needing to be there, but also he can remotely configure them. So all of our pearls have cloud access through
Right.
Epiphan Edge. So you can remotely look in that device and you can see a live preview of what's happening on it, and you can make any changes. And when it comes to scheduling, of course, you can do your scheduling from the cloud there as well.
And
So yeah, he's a big fan of it. Yeah.
the same thing applies with the podcaster that we were talking about earlier. He's in a completely different country controlling it, and the same thing can be applied if you are, operating your house of worship and you're not in service that day. You can still control what's happening with your Pearl on location.
Yeah, yeah. There's not many places where you don't want to have that remote access. It doesn't mean you're going to use it all the time, but it's boy, is it ever nice knowing that you can do
To
it, or
have it in a pinch
you
is
need
great.
help if it's just be out of your expertise and you want to call in a bigger gun to come in and help diagnose an issue or
Yeah,
help you. It's really, really helpful.
of course.
Um, so I can show you a couple of pictures of what that scheduling looks like, if you
Yeah,
like.
sure.
So
Why don't we bring these up
um,
full screens? Because I think you have some interface displays here.
yeah, so when you to set up your schedule for a Perl system, you'll see everything on the device itself. Either on the front screen, you can see what that schedule looks like. But to configure it, you would log into Epiphan Edge, which is our cloud tool that lets you really see all of your pearls, and you have a lot more capabilities through this tool set. And you have a calendar view and a list view. So you can see here, it's a very nice UI, I must say. And you can also schedule repeated events or one-time events. So maybe it's every Monday, at 2 o'clock, the same thing happens. And then you can select which devices and channels you want to operate. So maybe it's 4 devices all operating on the same schedule. You can gang those all up into one scheduling object, really. And you can choose, of course, which channels on which devices you want to schedule. So um, yeah, these devices can be anywhere. They don't have to be in the room. You don't need to be sitting beside it on a web UI. You can be anywhere. So it's all part of our cloud tools, which let you, manage and control those devices. And of course, we work with Zoom and Teams and let you integrate that way. And we let you do production in the cloud as well. So we have a whole suite of cloud tools. But for today's discussion, really, I wanted to focus on Epiphan Edge, which is the device. If you have a Perl system and you have an Epiphan Edge subscription, you can do a lot. So it's nice, a nice pairing.
Oh, absolutely. And I have to I have to give credit where credit is due, especially when it comes to Epiphan Connect, because we were talking about EdgeStream earlier, and last year when we did EdgeStream, we had 4 members joining from a Teams call, and we actually used Epiphan Connect to bring all 4 of our guests into our system in our studio via SRT, because we found it to
Oh,
be a little bit more reliable than the NDI feeds, and like that it was able to isolate all of your audio channels. So got to give credit where credit is due.
yeah, that's been a fun year, like talking about all of these hybrid workflows with Zoom and Teams, and trying to push the
Yeah,
envelope on what's possible, and also the quality level. I mean, there's a certain quality that I think people are okay with when you do a Zoom call or something, but if you can bump that up and really do some show and
absolutely.
tell, it's our customers get excited about that. So
Awesome. Well, George, I want to say thank you for joining us today and showing us, that, like you said, these Perl systems are still getting updates. And, what we like to do on Video Guys is the last minute or so, we like to throw it to our guests. Do you have any last words that you want to say about Epiphan?
honestly, I'm most excited about these scheduling features, and we do have some new things coming out in the new year. So stay tuned to us in January, February. We'll have some more news to come out. And if you are using the scheduling feature, we'd love to hear about it, how it's working for you, what you're using it for. So please don't be shy, reach out. We're a pretty social group.
So, what you're saying is that we should expect you back on the show in January, February?
Let's do it. Yeah,
All right,
we'll
sounds
hang out
good.
here for 2 minutes and we'll put it in the calendar. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. All right, so again, everybody, thank you to George for joining us today. We are live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on both YouTube and Facebook. I think we had a little bit of problem with Facebook today, but we will get this uploaded on Facebook later. If you have any questions at all, make sure to give us a call at 800-323-2325, and we will see you next Tuesday here at 3 p.m. Eastern. Peace.
Video Guys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.